In this training, we will be discussing annual performance appraisals. You will learn about how our interpretations shape the way we view the world around us, and which of these interpretations are appropriate for performance appraisals. We have the ability to see components of something and know what it is without staring at each part individually. For example, I can look at a mug on someone's desk and assume that they're either a coffee or tea drinker. I think that I know this because most people I've ever worked with drink coffee in the mornings, and I see our coffee pot at work emptied 2 or 3 times a day. I personally am a tea drinker, as is the person in the cube next to me. Seeing a mug that looks like it is some sort of ceramic material with a handle leads me to assume it's for holding hot beverages, and my experiences have led me to infer that a mug is used for either coffee or tea. What's happening in this picture? I see a soldier with a gun to his head. And what about the picture to the right? In this image, it looks like one soldier is potentially saving the life of another soldier by giving him water. We can look at 2 halves of an image and form completely different opinions on what is happening. I saw this image years ago, and it has stuck with me since as a very literal example of how what we see can influence the decisions we reach. Tell me what you can guess about this person. It looks like they're all bundled up to go outside in the winter. Maybe they're going skiing. Or maybe they have a fever in the chills and are trying to feel better. They might even be like my mom, who looks like this even if it's 85 degrees out because the furnace is broken at her work. If we did not make assumptions based on our observations and past experiences, we would never get anywhere in life. Even just getting ready in the morning would take forever if you had to spend 20 minutes examining your clothes before figuring out how to put your pants on. We see this sometimes in patients with dementia who struggle with what we consider to be everyday tasks, but they can't remember experiences that they have had with that object. Heuristics help us speed up this process. However, we do pay a price for this quick and dirty decision-making system, and that is that we sometimes make mistakes. These errors that we make are called biases, and biases cause issues in performance reviews. Is the number of musicians a band must have in order to be considered a big band more or less than 30? What do you think? How many musicians must a band have to be considered a big band? Do you think your answer to the second question was influenced by the first? Most people are influenced by this irrelevant information. The correct answer is 10. There are multiple different biases that are common when interacting with people and when doing performance appraisals. The first of these is called the anchor bias, or the first impression bias. This is when your overall opinion of someone is completely formed the first time you interact and isn't adjusted as you learn more. Let's talk about Susie. She has been a leasing consultant for 3 years. The first 2 years, her sales were mediocre and there were several errors in her paperwork. You had to consistently stay on her to make sure she was getting things done on time. This past year, she has increased sales, been dressing very professionally, keeping paperwork very organized, and you have received many compliments from residents concerning Susie. What kind of ratings should she get? Good ones, right? We wouldn't want to let our impression of last year's performance influence the scores we give her for this year's work. Apple makes beautiful phones. They're sleek and sophisticated and have such a clean look. It's so easy to think about the company that way too, and consumer polls show that they are often rated as a green company. But what do they want us to do every year? Buy a new phone. We have to have the newest and greatest, and when we buy a new phone, we can toss out last year's model, or if we're lucky, sell it for $50. That is so wasteful. Their business model encourages regular handset replacement, but we think of them as being green and efficient. What about Tiger Woods? He's a great golfer, and for a long time he had a great image. His age and the way he looked, along with excelling at a non-aggressive sport, made the world think he was a great family man too. However, when his affairs came to light, it absolutely destroyed his image. Did he suddenly stop being able to hit a golf ball? No, but people stopped thinking of him in the same light, and he's no longer one of the faces of golf. Those are examples of the halo bias, when the overall rating of someone is based off of one component, and that halo can be positive or negative. In one study, job performance ratings were most highly correlated with agreeableness, or likability. This is one of the most common biases, and this is why appraisals are broken into factors. We have to have a separate evaluation and explanation of each individual factor, making it different from the others. Has a friend ever shown you their new car and then suddenly you see that car everywhere? Or has the fear of a shark attack ever stopped you from going in the ocean? The odds of getting attacked and killed by a shark are 1 in 3,748,067. Yet the fear of shark attacks will stop some people from going in the ocean. However, most of these people travel in cars every day, where the odds of getting an accident are 1 in 84. But the imagery associated with shark attacks can be so much more powerful than that of a car accident. That's why it's important not to fall prey to availability bias, and to focus on things that are tangible instead of feelings and sentimentalities. There are also distributional biases that can exist. The black line represents the normal distribution, which is the actual rating of associates if there was absolutely zero bias. The blue line represents the appraisals done by a rater that has a strong skew towards severity, meaning that they rate everyone low, including people who aren't actually poor performers. The purple leniency line is the opposite, where more people are given high scores even though they don't perform that way. The green line, central tendency error, is when a rater tends to find all employees as average even when they aren't. If your appraisals do not fit the normal distribution, you should look critically at your evaluations. It doesn't mean that they are wrong, but you want to check yourself for unnoticed biases. People are comprised of multiple layers. Values are the deepest, darkest part of what makes you who you are. You might not even understand all the components to this, but it's something you feel so strongly into your core. Your beliefs are how you express those values. For example, if respect is something you truly value, your beliefs on how others should behave are based on your value of the importance of respect. Attitudes are interactions between your beliefs and what's going on in the world around you, and your internal emotions and attitudes can't change. What you can change is your behavior. You can recognize when a certain attitude isn't appropriate for the situation and control your behavior. If you were going to prove your ratings to a judge, what would you supply as the evidence? Behaviors. In performance appraisals, we want to make sure we're giving behaviors as well. This would include things that an associate should start or stop doing or do more or less of. You wouldn't say things like, they're lazy, but instead could say something like, spends time socializing with coworkers. Instead of saying does not try hard enough, you can put that they do not produce solutions to problems on their own. Genuinely cares for residents is not a behavior, but smiles and makes good eye contact is. Throughout the year, notes should be taken on associates' performance. If you haven't worked with the associate for very long, consult with other managers that worked with the associate. You can also use that information to see if their performance has changed under your management, either for better or worse. That could help you make adjustments to your managerial style. Review the associate's file to make sure you are aware of any verbal or written warnings that may have been given, but don't just look for negatives. The performance review conversation should be an overall positive one and end on a positive note. Note improvements, areas that weren't improved on, and accomplishments. Remember to look only at behaviors, not personality, attitudes, or motivation. There are 4 competencies that encompass all of the requirements of each job at Sing. Given that we are summarizing and evaluating an employee's entire performance for a year into 4 categories, we must be thorough. Please note, for those of you evaluating managers, these competencies are slightly different. Focus on client services, problem solving, and functional technical skills remain the same, with the addition of directing others and building effective teams. If you have any questions about what those last 2 mean or how to evaluate them, please do not hesitate to contact me. Focus on client services. This competency involves gaining and showing personal satisfaction from delivering great service and satisfying customers, and understanding who the customers are and how to work to support their needs. It includes listening and taking action based on clients' feedback and looking for opportunities to enhance service delivery. Problem solving. This is using logic, methods, and available resources to solve difficult problems and find functional solutions. It consists of looking beyond obvious solutions and keeping the end goal in sight. Functional technical skills. This is about knowing and being able to correctly complete the components of the job itself. Demonstrates teamwork. This revolves around the way they handle relationships with other associates, being willing and able, and demonstrating the ability to work outside of their specific job duties and tasks to help out the team as a whole. It also includes volunteering to help others and cooperating. Our ratings are based on a 3-point rating system. 1 point is approaching successful performance. Coaching or training is potentially necessary to be successful within this competency. Sometimes performance is acceptable, but other times it is not. This associate may have received some prior coaching or discipline. Approaching performance standards does not mean that they are failing. However, it does mean that improvement is needed to be successful. Successful performance means job well done. Tasks and assignments are completed consistently, and the associate does what is expected of every associate. Additional training and coaching is not needed. The associate's performance may sometimes go above and beyond. Peers, subordinates, and supervisors can count on the individual to perform when needed. Most of our associates fall within this category. When 3 points are given to an associate in a competency, this is because the associate routinely and consistently outperforms in this area and is ready to perform at the next level. They consistently do things outside the scope of responsibilities to support the community's goals. Peers, subordinates, and supervisors consistently look to this person's performance as an example for others to achieve. This rating is given to truly superior performance. Now we're going to look at scenarios for the different competencies. The first scenario is for the focus on client services competency. John is mostly quiet around residents. If a resident makes a special request, he will get irritated and then take care of it. He doesn't speak with residents often, only when he's spoken to. After speaking with him about this, he states that he's going to improve and not get frustrated when residents make special requests. There are no other problems with his performance. There hasn't been an improvement, and he seems to be just the same. What rating would you give John? For this scenario, we would give John 1 point for focus on client services. Even though all his other areas of his performance are not an issue, he is underperforming in this competency, even after you had a verbal conversation with him about this. He's not grasping the concept of how client services should be. Problem solving. Amy excels at clearly defining problems and is prepared to face complex situations. She takes an appropriate amount of time to ensure that the resolution is well thought out, but it is addressed in a timely manner. Amy keeps the appropriate parties updated and asks for others' input when suitable. She is aware of the impacts her solution will have and how to mitigate other complications that may arise from it. Her answers are sometimes creative and out of the box, but she is not afraid to try new things. When others are stumped on how to address a situation or problem, she is the person they go to. What rating would you give Amy? Amy would likely receive a 3. She consistently goes above and beyond, is an expert in her field, and is relied upon by others. Functional technical skills. Sue has been in her current position for multiple years and is doing a good work in every aspect of her job. She does not require ongoing coaching or management, but will make occasional mistakes. She is quiet with residents and her coworkers, but will quickly alert her supervisor if a resident brings a problem to her attention. What rating would you give Sue? We would give Sue a 2 for functional technical skills. She does her job and does it to our expectations. She doesn't go above and beyond, however, when asked, she gets the job done. Sue truly does a good job and is meeting all of our expectations of her within her role. Demonstrates teamwork. Sandy is friendly with all coworkers and makes it a point to clearly communicate residents' needs with others. She helps out her coworkers frequently, and you and your coworkers look at her to be very dependable. She has helped out in other departments when there was a need. Sandy has also played a major role in a special community-wide project by working with individuals in other departments. What rating would you give Sandy? Sandy would get a 3 in the demonstrating teamwork competency. She uses her teamwork skills beyond her daily work and represents her team very well in the community-wide projects. Be sure to give ample justification for your ratings. This should be at least 3 to 5 sentences backed up with specific examples of what you're saying. Remember, you're summarizing their entire year's performance into approximately 16 sentences. Make them count. If you're struggling to put your thoughts into words, consult the prompts handout. However, don't forget that these are only prompts. Review comments should not be entirely comprised of sentences found on that sheet. The discussion should be a two-way conversation where you go over the appraisal and explain why the associate got the ratings that they got. Actively listen to their responses and give them a chance to speak their mind if they disagree with the score. Address differences in ratings between what they gave themselves and what you gave them. If they rated themselves as a 3 in one competency and you gave them a 1, explain why. Back that explanation up with specific examples of their performance. Additionally, criticism should always be constructive and be clear in the ways that they can improve their score for next year. The review should not come as a surprise to the employee. Be sure to give positive and negative feedback in a similar manner. If you are unsure how to handle a situation, discuss it with your supervisor or the Human Resources Department beforehand. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this training. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact Kate Pydon, Chelsea Paulette, or anyone in the HR team.